In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a simple smiley face emoji that could be cut and engraved using the laser cutter. In the image I've got on the screen here, you can see I've made a very simple emoji-like face, and I'm going to cut that out on the laser cutter. And below that, there's another piece that I want to cut out with the word smiley face written on it. I'm going to start by creating a canvas. So to do that, I need to go to File, New. And then I'm going to create my canvas. So in the width and height, I'm going to create a 10 by 10 square canvas. So that's 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters. If you want to work in centimeters, just click on the measurement option and change it as needed. But I'm going to leave it as millimeters. Further down the page, you can see color mode. Make sure that you've selected RGB color. This is really important for use with the laser cutter. Once you've edited these settings, just hit create to create your canvas. Now let's start with the emoji face. If we look to the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the fifth tool down is the rectangle tool. And next to that, there's a small white triangle, which means that there are other tool options in that slot. So to look at the other options, if you just click on the tool and then hold the mouse or trackpad button down, you can see I've got rectangle tool, rounded rectangle, and others. I'm going to use the ellipse tool to create a circle. So I'm going to start by drawing my circle on the screen. And you'll see that as you make the circle, pink lines appear. That means that it's a perfect circle. If you don't see the pink lines, it means that you've drawn an oval. So I'm going to make sure that mine is perfectly circular. So there are the pink lines, so I can let go of the mouse button now. And I'm going to turn the fill color off. So if you look on the right-hand side of the page, I'm going to click on the fill color, and I'm going to click on the box with the red line through it. That means no fill color, so set that to none. And because I'm going to cut this piece out using the laser cutter, so I have a little circular piece, I'm going to change the stroke color to RGB red. So if you see the swatch panel, simply click on the color mixer icon to switch, and then turn the red channel up to maximum, that's 255, and the green channel down to 0 and the blue channel down to 0. So that's perfect RGB red. There are no other colors in there. So it's not a weird shade of red, it's just pure RGB red. When you've done that, make sure that the point size is set to 1. So these little arrows here, you can make the line thicker or narrower. Make sure it's set to 1 point. So I've created the red cutting line. So the laser is going to cut through the material on the laser cutter by following this line. The next thing we're going to do is give the face some eyes. So I'm going to draw the eyes, and it will remember the color settings that I've used previously. So I'll create one eye, and I'll change that stroke color to blue. So I'm going to turn the red channel down to 0. And I'm going to turn the blue channel up to 255 and leave green at 0 as well. So now it's pure RGB blue. And you can just click anywhere on the side panel to make that window disappear. Now I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. And I'm going to paste that eye. And I'm going to move it by clicking on the Selection tool in the top left-hand side and moving the eye up to where I need it to be. And you can see these pink guiding lines help you make sure that everything is kind of in the right place. So the red, the RGB red, the laser is going to cut through using something called a vector cut. And the laser will move a bit like your hand holding a pencil. It will just move around in a circle, and it will do it very quickly. The reason we need to change the color for the eyes to blue is I want to engrave these eyes on the wood. I don't want to cut these pieces out. So we need a different color. So we're going to use RGB blue for something we call vector engraving, where the laser still moves in the same way, like a hand holding a pencil, but the power of the laser isn't as strong. So it doesn't punch through, it doesn't cut through the wood. So we're just going to engrave those blue eyes there. And then I'll click on the ellipse tool again, and I'll draw some smaller circles for the pupils of the eye. But this time I'm going to turn the stroke color off entirely, and I'm going to turn the fill color to black. So that just means that red needs to be down at 0, green needs to be down at 0, and blue needs to be down at 0. Or you can just click on the little black option box at the bottom of this window. So once you've done that, I'll go to Edit, Oh, I need to use the selection tool. So click on the selection tool, click on that, then edit, copy, edit, paste. And then I'm going to use the selection tool to move that eye, that pupil there into the middle. Okay, now the reason I'm using black here is because I'm going to use something called raster engraving. And this is really good for filled shapes. So because I don't just want to engrave the outline of the pupil, I want it to be a solid shape. I've set that to black, and the laser will use a more slow engraving method where it moves from left to right and it moves slowly down. It starts at the top of the shape, moves left to right, and it scans downward until it engraves the full shape. So we need to use raster engraving for these larger filled shapes. So that's why I've set that to black. And then finally, I'm going to use the line segment tool, and I'm going to draw a mouth. I'll just have a straight line. I'll just keep it simple, nothing too exciting. And I'm going to turn the fill color off. So just double check that's off, which it is. You can see the red lines through the fill option. And then the stroke color, I'm going to turn the color mixer on, and I'll make the blue channel maximum there, so 255, turn the red channel down to 0 and the green channel down to 0, and then click anywhere on the side panel to deselect. Now if I click on the selection tool and just click on the background, now I've got my red cutting line. I'm going to engrave the eyes and the mouth using a vector engrave, and I'm going to use raster engraving for the pupils of the eye. Now let's finish this off. I'm going to add that last piece that I'm going to cut out of my material on the laser cutter. So I'm going to go to the rounded rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle at the bottom, right? And again, I want to cut this out. So I'm going to set the stroke color to red. So I'll turn the red channel up to maximum, 255, and the blue channel down to 0. And then I can just click anywhere on the side panel here, and you can see now I've changed the outline, the stroke, which is the border of the shape I've just created, to red. And then I'm going to go to the text tool. I'm going to click in that box, and I'm going to type smiley face. And then I can use the selection tool to just drag the corners of that, make it larger, and just move it slightly into the middle of the shape that I want to cut out. Now I'm going to use raster engraving because I want to have these very thick filled lines. So I'm going to leave the fill color of the text as black. But if I wanted to just write the outline, I could turn the fill color off and turn the stroke color to RGB blue, and it would look like that, as you see on the screen. So the text would be hollow and the letters will be outlined. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have it raster engraved. So I'm using the slower method and have it nice and thick and bold. Now the last step that you need to carry out for this, and this is an important one, is you need to right click on the text, and then from the menu that pops up, select Create Outlines. And this means that the text is no longer editable as text. It's now classed as a shape. And if you don't do this, sometimes on the laser cutter, and it depends on what laser cutter you use, but when you send the file to the laser cutter, your text won't be in the right place on your canvas, and it will mess up your design. So you always need to finish using text by right-clicking it and then hitting Create Outlines. That's really important. So now I can't go back in and change this, the spelling here or anything like that, because it isn't actually text anymore. It's now an actual shape. It's a graphic, okay? And that's really important. So don't forget that step. So that's it. That's how I create the smiley face emoji that I can cut out using the laser cutter, and the extra piece with the word smiley face on it. So the laser cutter will move around the red lines to cut those out, and it will do those very quickly. And then it will follow the blue paths to engrave those very quickly. And then it will slowly move left and right and go from top to bottom on those shapes and engrave those. And then it will move down and it will do the lettering by moving left to right as it moves down and does the smiley face writing line by line. And that's a slower process. And that's it. That's how you create simple images that you can engrave and cut out using the laser cutter. And this is what the final product will look like once you've cut and engraved it using the laser cutter.